Welcome to the Virtual College Exploration for all North and South Carolina students, sponsored by the Carolinas Association of Collegiate Registrars and Admissions Officers and StriveScan. We appreciate you joining us all today. A few housekeeping announcements before we get started and turn it over to our panelists. You can use the Q&A button to type your questions to our presenters at any time. Your camera and microphone are off so the panelists cannot see or hear you. This is just one of many different sessions that are happening for the next month. So be sure to view the full schedule at CACRAO.org. That's CACRAO.org. This presentation is being recorded and will be made available within about a week's time on the same CACRAO website. Again, CACRAO.org. And I'd like to now turn it over to our presenters. Thanks for joining us.
Awesome. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here. This is our title slide. Just wanted to, again, to let you guys know what presentation you guys are in right now. This is the pre-professional programs and what does that mean? So introductions real quick. My name is Kelly Spainhour and I am fortunate enough to be representing UNC Wilmington.
Hi, I'm Molly Tippett. I'm representing Western Carolina University today.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Blake Morgan, and I'm representing UNC Charlotte.
Good morning, everyone. Or say good morning, good afternoon. My name is Dante Wise, and I'm representing Fayetteville State University.
Wonderful. So the reason why we felt it was important to do this presentation, because we understand that a lot of students do want to consider medical school or law school after completing their undergraduate degree. So really kind of anything along those lines, we wanted to cover that through this presentation and just teaching you how we as a university can prepare you for that admissions process and how we do that with our academic advising along with all of our universities. So really before we get into the nitty gritty, we wanted to take the opportunity just to kind of introduce our universities to you. So first off, we will let Molly talk a little bit about Western.
Okay, so Western Carolina University is who I represent, and we are located in beautiful Cullowhee, North Carolina. It's a valley you can see in that photo, and the photo behind me, which is Western as well. We sit in the Cullowhee Valley, and we're about an hour west of Asheville. We're 300 acres of land in the gorgeous Blue Ridge Mountains. We're actually right where the Blue Ridge and the Smoky Mountains meet. We're Division I athletics, and we are a North Carolina Promise school. So some of the pre-professional programs that we offer include medicine, dental, physician's assistant, veterinary, law, optometry, physical therapy, and pharmacy.
All right, to my future 49ers out there, so you're going to be a part of Niner Nation, which makes one of the largest universities in terms of enrollment in the state of North Carolina. We're the third largest in total enrollment. That's going to include both undergraduate and our graduate students. But just considering undergraduate with their bachelor degree seeking students, we are the second largest university in the state. Now, even though 29,000, 30,000, what have you, those are large numbers, we want to assure you that we're going to provide you that small school feel. We have a variety of resources, support, and services for you as a student. For instance, our student to faculty ratio is 19:1. And also too, on top of the small school feel, we want to make sure that our students get connected not only on campus, but also off campus. We are one of the only public institution in the UNC system that is in the largest city in the Carolinas, Charlotte, North Carolina. And we have plenty of platforms for you to make that impact both inside and outside the learning environment. Now, considering our pre-professional programs, if you are pursuing freshman admission, you're going to find one major in particular, pre-health professions. Those are for individuals who, after earning their bachelor's degree from UNC Charlotte, want to go to a non-law professional school. Non-law would be dental, medical, pharmaceutical, optometry, physician's assistant, veterinarian, many more. And that's where you can put one of those majors on the application. We'll talk a little bit later on what we mean by major for pre-professional programs later on, but do know it's an option there on your application. And we do have a PreLaw Society, which is a student organization led by faculty members to help our students build that pathway to law school.
All right, and for myself, with UNC Wilmington, we are located, of course, in the city of Wilmington, North Carolina. Our university is smack dab in the middle of that city, so we're not located on the beach. A lot of people think we are, but we're about 5 miles away from Wrightsville Beach and about 5 miles from the riverfront, which is kind of the center or the front of Wilmington, the city. We are considered the coastal university. Like I said, we sit on a couple of different bodies of water very close to us. And we're ranked 92 among the top public national universities. So now that we have 4 doctoral programs, 35 master's programs, and 55 undergraduate programs, we have continued to kind of just increase that ranking system. For our pre-professional programs, we have quite a few, as you can see listed. Some of the most popular ones from this list is pharmacy, law, dental, and physician's assistant. We're continuing to grow each and every year through our buildings. We have about 18,000 students on our campus, and that does include undergrad and grad students. So we're still considered kind of in that middle-sized university realm within the North Carolina system.
Fayetteville State University, and welcome again, you future Broncos. We were founded in 1867. We're actually the second oldest state-supported school in North Carolina. We're located in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and for all my military dependents possibly out there, we're minutes away from the biggest military base in the United States, which is known as Fort Bragg, North Carolina. We are a mid-sized college with a lot of heart. We nearly have about 6,700 students. That includes undergrad and graduate students, and our student-to-faculty ratio is approximately 17:1. So Fayetteville State, again, make sure that you have that small classroom size. In reference to our pre-professional programs, we do have nursing, and our nursing program is doing really well, actually ranked number 2 on the whole southeastern side of the United States. We have our pre-dentistry program. We have a pre-law program, just like Blake stated. We have a PreLaw Society as well, where our instructors and our students work together to advance them and prepare them for those graduate programs, professional programs. We also have occupational therapy, We also have optometry, pre-pharmacy, and physical therapy.
So now that you've got a little feel of a couple of different varieties of schools within the UNC system, we want to kind of jump in and just want to give you some questions before we get started with the big piece of this program. A lot of questions that you may already be considering, but we want to start putting this in your mind is, can you start preparing for this during high school? Will students receive an additional academic advisor who is in charge of their pre-professional pathway? Can students go into medical school or law school right after graduating high school? Are students required to complete an undergraduate degree in the same profession to get into their college of choice within the educational schooling? And are students required to complete multiple applications and take additional exams to get into these programs? These are questions, along with many more that you probably have already thought about, that we hope to try and answer for you today during the rest of this presentation. So continue to think about these things. If there are questions that aren't on this that we don't answer, please make sure to add that into the question and answer section. We are going to make sure that we save enough time to try and go through those, as many as we can. So I am going to turn it over to Blake to get us started with really kind of the preparation process.
Thanks, Kelly. So one of the common questions that we're always asked when we're interacting with students who want to go into professional school is, can my major be pre-med, pre-dental, pre-veterinarian, what have you? Common things are for the UNC system that we do offer these programs that may be related to your professional school. However, that's not going to be your formal major to then give you a bachelor's degree. It's going to more complement, or it may not even have to complement with your major altogether. Prime example, if you're wanting to go off to medical school, there's going to be a group of class requirements that are commonly required for a variety of different medical schools, both inside North Carolina and outside North Carolina. You're going to be assigned a pre-health advisor that's going to work with you in terms of that pathway to make sure you take the right coursework to ensure that when you do apply for medical school, the application will be eligible and then can be considered also for admission to that respective institution. Now, to keep in mind, I just mentioned a group of courses, not actual major or a bachelor's degree. So you're trying to accomplish 2 different requirements. One for a bachelor's degree from the institution that you're attending as an undergraduate student, and then any requirements that are specific to that professional school that you want to go off to. So many students may think, well, if I'm really focusing on those courses, what major do I pursue? Really, you have a lot of options before you. Each one of us, 4 institutions, offer a lot of different programs for you to choose from. And as I mentioned before, if you're wanting to go off to medical school, one of the first majors that we hear from future medical school students is that they want to major in biology. That program complements the requirements very nicely. Also, too, you don't have to necessarily major in biology. For example, we have students from UNC Charlotte that majored in dance and then went off to medical school. So there's a variety of different approaches. And then a little bit later on, you'll be asked or things to consider how to build that network and understand what medical schools and doctors really use in their education and what they're expecting for their respective field. But do know that your major can complement what you're looking for in a professional school education, but it does not have to. Now, while you're an undergrad, you are going to have a variety of advisors to guide you through that pathway to prepare for professional school and also to ensure that you graduate with a bachelor's degree from one of us 4 institutions. And then other great ways for you to be supported as well is starting that network that I mentioned earlier in terms of getting connected to a variety of resources that your advisors may bring to your awareness, such as job shadowing, maybe a local doctor or a physical therapist, actually going on a campus tour of a certain medical school or physical therapy school, what have you, and making those connections and a little bit more. There's so much research that can happen now, even before you start at a 4-year institution, but do know there are plenty of options and opportunities for you for what your undergraduate experience is going to look like. There's not one that is wrong. There's not one that's necessarily right, but you do want to make sure that you meet those requirements set by that school you want to go to. And we have the resources to help you get there.
Okay, so some important things to think about, I mean, just as you're getting through this, include the application process. So many schools are going to look at your coursework, and Blake mentioned some of this in his coverage, but such as sciences for medical or physician's assistant school. Now, by that, we mean you really can major in anything as a pre-professional. However, you want to make sure you're covering whatever those prerequisites are. So if you need like biology, chemistry, any of that, you want to make sure you're completing the coursework in school. And there are some prerequisite tests you will need to complete for law or medical school. For example, there's, if you don't take the test, then they can't, it's kind of like taking an SAT or an ACT before you come to college. You would take a prerequisite test before going to this next step. And in addition, and I will talk about graduate school a little bit more later, but there are tests that you would take for graduate school as well, depending on what graduate school you're going to and what those requirements are, varies depending on the school. So there are a lot of options for you. You need to make sure that you are keeping on top of what you need to do. Now, something important to remember is you'll usually have a pre-professional advisor who can assist you in this process, or an advisor in the major field that you've chosen. So like say that you are pre-med and your major's forensic science, you'll probably have a faculty advisor in forensic science and a pre-professional advisor. That's how we do it here at Western, but every single college is going to vary just a little bit on how they do that. Some you may just have a pre-professional advisor. Some you may just have a faculty advisor who you work with to make sure you're meeting your pre-professional needs. So you will work with an advisor in some way, shape, or form. It may be one, it may be two. So get to know your professors. So recommendation letters can be a huge asset. When you're going to that next step, you definitely want to be able to show your professors that you are, a professional, that you can get that next level work done, and you want to have that support. And graduate school is also a possibility in some cases. So like, I will give you an example. In North Carolina, athletic training moved to requiring a master's degree to get certain licensures. So say you want to go into athletic training, or you're looking at physical therapy, maybe you're not really sure if that's the way you want to go or more towards athletic training. They have some similarities. Graduate school might be an option for you. I mean, you can still do or professional school at a later time, but graduate school is definitely a possibility. Do your research early. Something important to keep in mind is when you are planning to go to that next step, you want to do your research. You want to know, what do you need? to get there. Some of these schools are really competitive, so you want to do your research and see, you know, what does my GPA have to be? What coursework do I need to do? What does my MCAT score need to be? What do I need to have to get to this particular thing, this next step, this school that I want to go to? And I would definitely suggest having 2 or 3 school options, just because it does not hurt to have a lot of possibilities and options. Also, visit campus when it's an option. Now, I know right now visiting in person is hit or miss. Some schools offer it, some don't. And I know that probably it's a little bit early to visit those professional schools. I would definitely say visiting those undergraduate schools either virtually or in person, whatever is available, is definitely something I would do now. But when it becomes closer to time for you to apply to those professional schools, I would say visit campus if you can. If you have to do it virtually, and meet with the professors in the field that you're looking at. Talk to them. Make sure that it's a good fit, because fit is going to be very important.
So now let's talk about the takeaways, what we've learned so far today. You heard from 4 great institutions within the UNC system here in North Carolina. And the great thing about it, you've heard from 4 different regional areas within the state. You've heard from Western Carolina, which is on the western part of the state. You've also heard from UNC Charlotte, which is in the southern part of the state, southern western part of the state. You heard from UNCW, which is on the coast, the eastern part of the state. And you've heard from Fayetteville State University, which is centrally located within the state. So again, I hope that you got some good takeaways from what they offer in the pre-professional programs. Also, what do we talk about? We talked about the importance of a bachelor's degree, right? The difference between a pre-professional program, if you will, with a major that you have to make sure it complements that program, which Blake explained, I think awesomely, that you don't have to necessarily have a complementary program major, but you can also major in something else. But as long as you have that pre-professional track to get you prepared for that professional school. Also, preparation, which we talked about, right? Make sure you're speaking to those advisors once you get to those pre-professional programs. Make sure that you're prepared and do the research, as Ms. Miley stated, and make sure that you know what type of examination that you will need once you get to the professional schooling, okay? Make sure that you're very, very prepared. And also those transfer pathways, which we talked about just very briefly, you may want to go the track of going to community college first. Speak with that academic advisor that may be there that can help you to decide what courses to take at that local community college, or maybe another 4-year institution before transferring to one of our universities, to see and make sure those courses line up, it meets the prerequisites that you need, and most importantly, making sure that you keep your grades up as well. I've always told people, and we also agree on this panel, that it's never too early. It's never too early to get started. While you're in high school right now, you can go ahead and start doing some research on some of the programs. Maybe do some job shadowing, right? With that job shadowing, you line your ambitions and your goals up with the actual job duties in that career field, and to make sure that they line up. So it's always good to do that as well while you're doing your research, and staying connected with those professionals that you may do a job shadow. Stay connected with your academic advisor if you're transferring from a community college. Stay connected with those in your community that may have the experience in these fields. But again, those are the things that we want you to take away from this presentation and session on today, okay? And we hope that you've taken a lot away.
Yeah, so now that we have really gone through everything, I want to go back to those first questions that we had prior to the presentation, really just kind of hitting the ground on that and just making sure you understand, you know, what we went through today. So that first question was, can I start preparing during high school? And I hope you got this from every single slide, but yes, you can start super early. Do that job shadowing, talk with your guidance counselor, maybe take those dual enroll classes if you're able to in high school to start working on those prerequisites for that major that you have in mind. Students will receive an additional academic advisor depending on the university. So like Molly mentioned, every school is a bit different, not a lot, but sometimes there's just a tad bit of a difference on how they might prepare you. So I know Molly said they have additional ones. I know with Wilmington, we have additional ones. So everyone, again, is just going to be very different. So it could be a maybe kind of thing for that question. Can students go into these schools right after high school? No. So just like, you know, just like what everybody says, you do have to have a bachelor's level degree. So you've got to start your education with an undergrad before you can go into one of those professional school educations. Are students required to complete an undergraduate degree in the same profession into their choice of higher education schooling? Blake covered this in his PowerPoint. You do not have to have the same major. It may help you if you do, because you can start marking off some of those prerequisites that are required for that master's or a higher education program, but you are not required to have that undergraduate degree in the same profession. And lastly, are you required to complete multiple applications and extra exams? And Molly went over this in her part of the section, but yes, there will be multiple applications that you do have to complete, as well as extra exams, depending on medical school, whether it's, or law school. I know that even some master's programs, like you mentioned, have those extra exams. So start doing the research early, going into those admissions requirements, seeing what you have to take. Maybe there's a prep exam class that you can take during your undergraduate profession. So again, do your research. So we went over these. I think we tried to cover as best as of the information as we could. So I'm going to turn it to the question A part of the presentation with all of our contact information. If you have questions for individually for the schools, so maybe there's something you'd like to know about Western Carolina or specific to Charlotte or FSU or for UNCW, you can contact us individually. But we do have time left in our presentation, so we do want to open up the floor for any students that do have questions. So please utilize the Q&A section, and we will start to facilitate those questions out to you guys.
Okay, so the first question we received says, for sports medicine, would pre-med or pre-physical therapy be better? Now, my answer would be, it really depends on what you want to do. If you want to be a doctor to athletes, you're going to look more at a pre-med. If you're going to want to work in that physical therapy, helping people rehabilitate, you're going to look more towards that pre-physical therapy. There is also that option of the graduate school level of athletic training, if that's what you're looking at. It really just depends on what you want to do. So I would definitely take some time and figure out what it is that you wanted to focus on. And I don't know if you guys want to add to that, but that was just what I thought.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Molly.
And that, for now, that's what we have for questions. So if anyone has any other questions, feel free to add them to that open Q&A. Anybody want to add anything about their pre-professional department while we're waiting?
I think I have a question that some students may ask. Outside of the admission requirements, are there any specific application processes tied to the pre-nursing or to the pre-nursing that will lead to the nursing program for each of our institutions? Could we name some of those programs that may have additional applications outside of admission?
Yeah, we definitely, nursing would for us. Nursing, you're going to have to submit test scores. You're also going to have taken certain classes. It's very competitive for most schools. In addition, I would say things like music, things like stage and screen, you're going to have to audition, film and television production. Those are just a few. And then most of them have requirements to stay in. It looks like we're getting a bunch of questions now, if anybody wants to add anything.
One item I'll mention about nursing programs is that a good terminology when you're speaking with schools for undergraduate education for a nursing program is asking if the School of Nursing is direct admit. What that means is if you are offered admission, you are automatically a part of the School of Nursing. I know for UNC Charlotte, we are not direct admit. So if you start in as a first-year student, you do have to eventually apply upon entering usually sophomore year or sophomore standing directly to the School of Nursing. Typically, most of the nursing programs will have two different types of components for coursework: pre-nursing and then upper division. Upper division is where the clinical hours take place. You're in the hospital or medical facility working with individuals already in that field, and pre-nursing leads up to that point. And typically for most institutions, and I'm seeing some heads shaking yes to in agreement, that the School of Nursing is very competitive. And another common question that we get is, if I want to become a nurse and then go off to medical school. When we mention about some majors complementing professional schools and some that do not, nursing is a great way to make an impact in the healthcare field. It is not the best pathway to go in and prepare for medical school. A nursing program is meant to help you directly for potential licensure and certification to practice as a nurse in the medical field. And if you're wanting to go and become a doctor, that requires different coursework, very different certifications and licensure. So even though you might want to go in a certain industry, as Molly mentioned, sports medicine, there's a variety of different positions and options for you to choose on how you want to make an impact in that field. And once you know what you potentially want that role to be, then understanding what the education requires to be a part of that position.
Oops. Okay, I was muted. So one of our next questions says, for a person going into veterinary practice, what should I look for in the pre-professionals? So I would definitely look for a place where you're going to get all those sciences covered, where you're going to be doing something where you can maybe do an internship in a vet office or hospital. That would just be my opinion. I don't know if you guys want to.
We have the pre-vet program, the pre-professional program. So with that academic advisor that helps you with that pre-professional program will be a good connect for you to get those hours that you would need.
And one thing to add as well, as we continue to learn a little bit more about these professional schools, they are going to be competitive in nature. Medical school, vet school, a lot of students want to go into those respective schools, and those are popular positions that students want to go and work in. With a very limited amount of space for all these different programs, admission to professional schools is going to be competitive. And one thing you want to make sure is that you have a healthy balance of academic rigor and then also outside or extracurricular activities. So one thing to reinforce with academia is that you want to find an institution that really practices a lot of research opportunities for students. Medical schools, a lot of professional schools will really look at the examples of how you're promoting research, because you're going to be studying a lot of research when you're in these professional institutions. And then another item too is how you can continue to enhance and promote what you've already been doing so far, whether it's in the medical field, if you're wanting to go volunteering in a hospital, or if you want to go into vet school, already having exposure working with the vet clinic. So all these different opportunities don't have to be necessarily associated with a different institution, but you want to make sure you find that healthy balance of an academic rigor and then also the activities that you're doing outside of that learning environment as well.
Okay. Anybody else want to add to that, or should I move on to the next one? Okay. I'm a junior right now, and I'm taking early college classes on the nursing career. When I finish high school, what do you recommend me doing?
Well, what I would recommend, of course, as we stated in our presentation, you want to get connected to the university that you are possibly considering for your nursing program. Get in contact with a faculty member and advisor that let them know that you're early college. You know, I'm unaware, obviously, if you're an early college, you're on track to receive your high school diploma and also your associate's degree. So a lot of general education courses that you will have completed already, but still connecting with those advisors from that particular department to make sure, will you still be considered a pre-nursing student? Would you be able to meet the prerequisites that the nursing program recommends or requires in order for you to move into the nursing program? And of course, all of our schools applying to the School of Nursing separately if you're admitted into that university. So again, in my personal opinion, a lot of research you still need to do to make sure what your next steps are. But that's the route I would take. See what each institution requires as an early college student. And of course, as all of us will state, apply as a freshman so you still have scholarship opportunities even as an early college graduate.
I would also always suggest that you find out if you would be applying directly into the nurse. Sometimes it depends on how many hours you've taken. You may be applying directly into the nursing program or one semester than you are. So just make sure that you are aware of when that's going to happen for you, because it's going to be a little different coming in with hours than being just a traditional freshman. All right, our next question is, I would like to be a criminal defense attorney. What path should I take?
Political science would be a very popular one that our students choose at UNCW. Obviously with the pre-professional pre-law program, but again, it is up to your discretion, but I do believe, you know, it just kind of coincides with one another when it comes to political science and pre-law.
I would also add criminal justice is one that we have that a lot of students will do. I mean, really any of those are great options. We also have a business admin and law undergraduate, and some students who are looking towards the business side of law might do that. really you have a wide option of opportunities for if you're looking at law school.
Right. Or possibly look at the, which would probably take a little longer in schooling, maybe double a major, because political science would definitely be a great fit in criminal justice, or possibly psychology, but definitely I will push more towards the criminal justice and political science, maybe double majoring, and then doing that pre-law. And for all the students out there interested in pre-law, which I'm confident all of our schools have, get involved in some of those programs within those pre-professionals, those organizations, if you will, which will also help you to get more prepared for the professional school.
And one more item to add about law schools as well. As we mentioned earlier in the application process, most of these schools will have entrance exams that you do have to take. Specifically for law school, it's going to be the LSAT, so the SAT with the letter L at the front. And the law school is very much honing in critical thinking, writing, and a lot of those skills. A lot of great majors and a lot of different options that law schools don't necessarily require, but some of the top performing majors on LSAT exams have been known to be both English and philosophy.
There are also some students that will major in history. So, I mean, you just have such a wide range with that. But just keep working with those advisors. So for pre-professional, is it easy to get a meeting with faculty during a campus visit?
Contact. That is the number one advice that I give to students that want to get more information from different programs. We in admissions have great relationships with these faculty members in the different departments, but we cannot really kind of enforce a schedule on them because they have their own personal schedules that they have to do on a daily basis. So we would love to give you the contact information for that department, but we would hope that it's kind of taking on that responsibility as a upcoming, college freshman to reach out to them individually to see if you can schedule a time to meet with them during the time that you're on campus.
Okay. And I would also add, it varies campus to campus to what their availability might be as well. And if you're looking to go to those professional schools, like to a medical school, they are very busy. So like she said, contact them, set up an appointment, just work with their schedule. So during your senior year at high school, what classes do you advise in order to get ready for the pre-med program?
Dual enrolled courses all the way. If your school allows you to take dual enrolled college courses during the time that you're in high school, go ahead and knock those out. We have a lot of students that want to get into medical school or want to get into nursing school that have a lot of prerequisites that you need. So if you can go ahead and knock those out, especially because when you're in high school, I know those dual enrolled classes are free. Go ahead and try and get as many of those as you can completed, but also make sure that those classes are transferable. Because you don't want to take those classes and realize, that they are not going to advance to upper level higher education. So if there are specific questions, usually every college has like a transfer articulation page where it helps you see how that class would transfer into the university. So definitely do that research, but try and take as many college classes as you can, especially in the science classes.
Okay, our next question is, are there different admission requirements for different departments or majors? Now, I think each of us probably it's a little different for each school, but I know for us, yes, some will require just a simple GPA that you have to maintain to stay in that program. A lot of them, they want you to see no less than a C in major level classes to stay in that program, like you're only allowed 1 or 2 grades below a C, or you go on probation once, and then it just depends on the major. Some majors do not have that requirement. Some require that you have an audition process. Some require that you do a full application and interview process. It really just depends on the school and on the major. I don't know if anyone has anything to add, but okay, so we'll move on from that one. For a follow-up to the sports medicine question, if I were looking at I'm guessing being a sports medicine physician, is pre-med or pre-PT better? I would think if you want to be a physician, you need to do pre-med because you're looking at, you want to be a doctor. Physical therapy is going to be a little different. You will, be a doctor, but it's not the same as a physician. I think that's correct.
That's how I would go about it. But again, it is up to the discretion. Sometimes talking to your academic advisor does kind of help weed out the back and forth. So, once you get into school, I know just speaking from Wilmington's perspective, we do not allow students to declare a major during their freshman year. So when you're meeting with your academic advisor within like the general studies, they can really kind of help you start planning out that pathway. So talking to them is going to be one of the best things that you can do within your first year, because they can try to help you make that decision a lot easier for yourself when you do decide to declare that major and then go into that pre-professional pathway, moving into your middle of your sophomore year.
Great. Yeah, always talking to advisors. Absolutely. They're going to be your biggest asset during this whole thing. Now, the next question asked, it's very specific. For someone wanting to pursue a career as an infectious specialist disease, what program or programs do you suggest? Now, I will tell you about, for Western, I would say biology. We actually have someone that studies infectious diseases here with our undergraduate. Now, it's not a specific major. It's under our biology umbrella. And I would say that would be probably the best option if you're looking at infectious disease specialists. You're going to go into a pre-med option or like focus, but I would say biology or maybe forensic science would be, from my perspective. I don't know if anyone has any other thoughts on.
I would say additional major to consider. Biology is definitely a great option. Another one could be potentially public health. We do offer that program at UNC Charlotte. And depending on infectious disease, epidemiology, public health, that can lead on into medical school, or that could be looking specifically into graduate school, where you may want to go for a doctorate in epidemiology or a doctorate in biology or other items as well. So thinking through more of research or working directly with patients, or all variety of options there for you.
All right. So what are some undergraduate opportunities in pre-law for internship, research, and employment? Anybody want to take that? Okay.
Oh, I can take it.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
For pre-law, we do have a PreLaw Society at UNC Charlotte. It is more organized as a student club or student organization, but they do work very closely with our faculty on our campus, and also our faculty are a part of the bar exam and certified in Juris Doctorate, what have you, practice law, and have great connections with many items both inside the campus and outside of the campus. For all these pre-professional programs, there will typically be student organizations that accompany that program, or if there's not a different major, there will be an organization to assist. Now, there's also a lot of opportunities for you to learn more about what this position requires after professional school. So if you're wanting to become a lawyer, you can job shadow current lawyers at their law firms and public or private corporations. All these different opportunities and options are available to you. And connecting with those student organizations on campus or an academic advisor about that program can open the door and really let you see, hey, there's all these different platforms and examples that you can really learn from. Some of these may be unpaid and some of them may be paid. We have had students at UNC Charlotte have internships with a variety of different law firms throughout the summer and potential semesters as well. So there's a variety of options there for you.
Yeah, I would definitely say that internships and job shadowing as an undergraduate is going to really be effective in that it's going to help you know. Say you want to be a lawyer, that's your heart is set on it, but you go do that job shadowing and really you don't feel like that's what you want to do. It just helps. And if you also, you could go in there and be like, I love this. This is absolutely right. It's just a really great chance to make sure it's the right fit before you are spending all the money on a professional school. So I think you would probably have a similar opportunity with most of our schools to have that job shadowing opportunity, but yeah. Okay, there's one more question posted, and please feel free to add more, you guys. We still have about 5 more minutes. If I wanted to go into the labor and delivery profession, what program or programs would you advise? So for me, I'd say nursing. Anybody want to add to that and give a little more
That's
detail?
kind of what I took it as. I know that
Yeah.
you could also do labor and delivery as a doctor. So it kind of depends. If you want to be that nurse that's there to carry the baby and really take care of them after the delivery, then of course we would definitely advise the nursing realm, which is actually for us not a pre-professional program. That's a specific degree program, a pre-licensure program, and an RN to BSN program. But if you're thinking more wanting to be the doctor that delivers the baby, then I would then consider medical school, because there is more education that is going to be required for that. So for undergrad, again, something in the sciences, something in biology, something to really learn the anatomy of the body, and then working on that application process to move into medical school.
And I think it's important that I think we've been saying over and over again that the job shadowing part, learning the research and learning what you're going to experience in that career field, because the beauty of labor and delivery is awesome until you realize maybe exactly what you have to do. And not to be graphic, but some people can't stomach all that it entails, if you will. So that's why I think the research is very, very important, on top of what Kelly stated about doing whether nursing or going the medical school route, and make sure it's a perfect fit for you.
I would also say some people will do the nursing and get their bachelor's and then do an additional licensure in midwifery. And you can do that if you're interested in being a delivery nurse at home or in the hospital, like they do both. But I mean, that's up to you if that's what you're interested in, or there is the more specific, the labor and delivery route. So it's, you've got a ton of options. Now we have another question that popped up. I am a senior. When would be the right time to do job shadowing if I'm interested in becoming an attorney? Start now. Yeah, I see. He said, yep, right now. Absolutely.
If you have contacts or if you have educators or teachers that could be a contact for you that could get you into an attorney's office, please reach out to them. If your guidance counselor, you don't know who knows people. Your town where you're from, it could be a big city. It could be somewhere that everyone knows each other's name, but you never know who knows someone. So contacts and networking is so important even while you're in high school. So if you know someone or know someone that might know someone, don't be afraid to email them or call them, contact them, and just say, hey, is there any way that you could get me in contact with someone that would help me job shadow? Senior year is so important because those are things that you can add if a specific school requires you to do a resume, or when you're looking into applying to these specific master's programs or these higher education programs, they're going to be looking for those experience. So definitely start this now. Don't be afraid to really start to talk to these people. We got to get it started ASAP.
And I would add on to that I may be telling my age, but when I was in high school, I graduated my business degree, which is not the pre-professional program we're talking about now, but I was in something called the Academy of Finance. You may have an FBLA. I'm not sure what it's called now, right? But those type of different special trade programs within your high school may offer the opportunity to job shadow. So I would say definitely get involved in any of the organizations now that you can as a senior that would afford those opportunities to you to get, again, realistic idea and to see exactly what the job or the career field will entail.
Okay, one more question. If you're following a pre-med pathway, will you take classes for that specific pathway along with classes for the major you choose? Here, yes, you have two advisors. So say you're majoring in, history with a pre-law, then you're going to make sure that you get what you need to apply to law school, but you're also going to be completing that history major. That's at least how we do it. And I don't know if anyone wants to add to that. We have about 2 more minutes left.
Yeah, I'd like to add just a little bit to that. So I know she mentioned having 2 academic advisors. That one that is specific to the major that you declared, that's going to be their focus, that major you pick. So if you picked history, their focus is, okay, let's talk to you about your graduation audit, which is making sure you're taking all the classes that you need in order to graduate. That's their focus. They're always going to contact you about that. But when you pick a pathway, if you pick pre-law or pre-med, they have another focus. So they know that you are working on a degree, but their focus is, okay, so we need to make sure that they've completed all of their science courses. So they're going to be contacting you about really that checklist. Have you completed your application for med school? Have you completed the testing, the exam that you have to do for that med school? Have you been able to complete all of your classwork? Are you getting those C's or betters in those courses, or hopefully even B's or better? Because again, like Blake said, these schools are super competitive. And they're also going to make sure that you have a top 3 list, because obviously, yes, we always want to go into that top school of our choice, but we always want to make sure we have a couple of backups. So that's also part of their process. So yeah, you're definitely going to be doing a lot of balancing. You're going to have to figure that out pretty early in the game, that you're going to have to balance out your degree, but you're also, if you're wanting to go into those professional schools, that you're going to have to balance out and complete all the other work that you need to get into the higher education school once you've graduated.
All right. Thank you all for joining us today, and thank you to the panelists. We all learned a lot today. When you close this window, you'll be sent a link to a very quick 4-question survey. So we'd appreciate any feedback that you could offer us through there. Also, this is just one of many sessions that we are offering for the next month. So we hope that you will view the full schedule at CACRAO.org. That's CACRAO.org. And in about a week, you'll be able to find this session's recording, as well as all the other content that is being presented for this next month. Again, CACRAO.org. So thank you for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your day.